a good one. Basically, 45 has one trick and it's not working anymore. During the 2016 campaign, Hillary Clinton often warned that 45 warned that 45 would do to the United States what he had done to his businesses, and that means bankruptcy, failures, and everything else. She was thinking of his record of debt, failure, and bankruptcy, about which the New York Times offered grim new details this week. But there's even more disturbing way that Clinton's warnings are being found truthful. North Korea has resumed missile testing, disregarding both 45's wooing and his threats of fire and fury. It has taken the squatter's measure, and it found him weak and empty. The the Times story of the tax return showed how stock markets did just the same thing in the 1980s. From 1986 to 89, 45 earned 67.3 million from short-term stock speculation. His method: he would require a substantial position in a company, then boast of his takeover intentions. 45's words would drive the stock price up. He would then sell it at a profit. The trick worked as long as 45's credibility lasted, which was not long. In September of '89, 45 tried that familiar trick once too often. He bought a large stake in American Airlines, talked takeover, and was jeered. "I'm very skeptical of everything this man does," Andrew Geller, then an airline analyst at Provident National Bank in Philadelphia, told the Associated Press. 45 was rebuffed, and the stock price fell sharply. Though at the time his losses were reported to be modest, the new tax return figures showed that in 1990, the year he sold his American Airlines stake, 45 lost $35 million in short-term trades, wiping out half his gains from the previous 4 years. In the 1980s, 45 was burning through his own money. As squatter, he's playing with the wealth and lives of nations. That greater responsibility has not in any way improved his behavior. Greater power has only temporarily restored his credit. The North Koreans see through him on missile testing. Now the Chinese seem to be doing the same on his trade threats. 45's current round of trade threats is failing to elicit trade concessions. U.S. stock markets slumped Tuesday. Markets had been expecting a trade agreement this week and were taken by surprise by a suddenly harder Chinese line. A new round of U.S. tariffs is scheduled to go into effect Friday unless a deal is reached. China balked at U.S. proposals, and 45 returned to Twitter for another round of threats. But those threats also revealed 45's fears. He wanted to score a domestic political point of his free trade Democratic rivals, but he showed international leaders how worried he is that trade disputes might cost him re-election. The reason for the China pullback and attempted renegotiation of the trade deal is the sincere hope that they will be able to negotiate with Joe Biden or one of the very weak Democrats, and thereby continue to rip off the United States $500 billion a year for years to come. The big question is in a trade dispute is which side can stand more pain. At the same time as 45 has threatened China, he has pleaded with the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. The Chinese have noted the juxtaposition. The Wall Street Journal quoted an analyst at a Chinese government-backed think tank. "Why would you be constantly asking the Fed to lower rates if your economy is not turning weak? The world is absorbing the lesson that Wall Street learned in the 1980s. 45 has only one negotiating move: take an aggressive position, try to deceive others, and maybe yourself, but your own strength. Issue threats you cannot fulfill, and then retreat amid losses if the bluff is called. But whereas once those losses were denominated in the millions, today they rise to the hundreds of billions. Where once he troubled only those investors credulous enough to take seriously his tycoon image, today he troubles the peace of the world," which is true on that part.